Natalia had long harbored a deep desire for her own tranquil sanctuary, a haven away from the relentless pace of urban life where she could truly recharge. After years of diligent effort and diligent saving, this cherished aspiration finally materialized. She acquired a compact yet exceptionally charming abode nestled on the serene banks of a stunning lake, conveniently situated just an hour's journey from the city's core. Natalia envisioned her weekends here, basking in the profound stillness and quietude. She pictured hosting gatherings, celebrating special occasions, and simply cherishing moments with her dear ones. This was her personal paradise, a place where all her worries could melt away. Natalia joyfully began charting out the contours of her new existence. Within this dwelling, she delighted in imagining the collaborative process with Oleg as they furnished it, cultivating an atmosphere of warmth and infusing it with love and felicity. Each day in their new home, Natalia would wander through the surrounding woods, take refreshing dips in the lake, lose herself in books on the veranda, and prepare delectable fish dishes for Oleg. She felt an overwhelming sense of contentment, believing that all her dreams had indeed been realized. Oleg, her husband, mirrored her elation and enthusiasm. He eagerly assisted in selecting furniture and decorative elements, offering insightful suggestions for the home's arrangement. Natalia found immense joy in witnessing his fervent commitment to this shared venture, viewing it as their special haven, a place to deepen their bond and forge a blissful family life. Natalia was convinced they had discovered their destined place in the world, their own slice of earthly paradise. Oleg stood with his back to Natalia, gazing out the window at the house behind her. She felt a profound happiness, anticipating a peaceful evening together. Oleg then turned, and Natalia observed a peculiar expression flicker across his face. He appeared strained, tinged with what seemed like guilt, which immediately put her on edge. "Natalia, we need to have a conversation," he stated, his voice unusually grave. Natalia switched off the stove and sat down opposite Oleg at the table, her heart thudding intensely as a premonition of something amiss settled over her. She studied her husband intently, attempting to decipher the unfolding situation. "What's happened, Oleg? You're making me nervous," she inquired softly. Oleg took a deep, fortifying breath before commencing. "You see, Natalia, I've been giving this a great deal of thought, and I've made a decision." He paused, his gaze averted. "In essence, I've concluded that Irina and Max require assistance." Irina was his former wife, from whom he had separated several years prior. Natalia was aware they had a son together, Max, but she had never fathomed that Oleg maintained such close ties with them. "How can we assist?" Natalia asked, utterly bewildered. Oleg finally met her eyes, his gaze conveying a complex mixture of challenge and apology. "They will reside here with us." Natalia was stunned, unable to comprehend what she had just heard. "What did you say?" she repeated, hoping she had misconstrued his words. "I said that Irina and Max are moving in with us. There's ample space here. It will be far better for them than their current cramped apartment." Natalia remained silent, grappling with the revelation. A surge of anger and profound hurt washed over her. How could he unilaterally make such a monumental decision without her input? How could he so brazenly dictate the use of their shared home, her cherished dream? "Oleg," she began, her voice trembling with indignation, "do you even grasp the gravity of what you're proposing? This is our home. We envisioned building our lives and family here together. Natalia, please, don't be overly dramatic. I've considered everything. This is a temporary arrangement. They're going through a difficult period. They need support, especially since Max needs a father, and I want to be present in his life." "And have you given any thought to me?" Natalia pleaded, her voice laced with desperation. "To my feelings? To my aspirations?" Oleg offered a dismissive shrug. "You'll simply have to adapt. Natalia, the arrangements are already finalized. Irina is already packing. They'll be arriving in a couple of days." These words struck Natalia like a death knell. She recognized with chilling clarity that Oleg did not perceive her as an equal partner. He was merely exploiting her for his own convenience. All her love and devotion had apparently amounted to nothing. Natalia refrained from creating a scene, maintaining a stoic silence. She rose from the table and quietly exited the kitchen, unwilling to expose the depth of her anguish and disappointment to Oleg. She needed time to process the situation and formulate a plan. She retreated to the bedroom and locked the door. Sitting on the edge of the bed, tears streamed down her face. She felt wounded, betrayed, and utterly terrified that the life she had so meticulously constructed was proving to be so precarious and ephemeral. Hours seemed to crawl by, yet brought no solace. She knew she had to take action. She could not permit Oleg to derail her future. She needed to safeguard herself and her destiny. Natalia retrieved her mobile phone and dialed her mother, Tatiana Sergeyevna. She knew her mother would offer unwavering support and assistance, regardless of the circumstances. "Mom, I need your help," Natalia pleaded, her voice quivering with emotion. "What's happened, my dear? You're frightening me," Tatiana Sergeyevna responded, her voice tinged with concern. Natalia recounted the entire ordeal to her mother, sharing her profound hurt, indignation, and disillusionment. She explained how Oleg had unilaterally decided to bring his ex-wife and son into their home without even consulting her. Tatiana Sergeyevna listened intently before reassuring her daughter, "Don't fret, my child. We will find a solution. Remember, the house is registered in my name." Natalia recalled that when she purchased the property, anticipating potential complications, she had indeed placed the title in her mother's name, a prudent measure, a safeguard against unforeseen events. "Yes, Mom, I remember," Natalia affirmed. "So, what do we do?" she asked, a flicker of hope igniting within her. "We'll sell this house. My dear, we will sell it as quickly as possible. You should not remain in a marriage with someone who fails to value or respect you." A profound sense of relief washed over Natalia. She recognized the wisdom in her mother's words. She could not remain married to a man who had so brazenly betrayed and humiliated her within their shared home. "Thank you, Mom. I agree. Please, do whatever is necessary," Natalia declared, her voice now firm and resolute. Tatiana Sergeyevna assured her that she would immediately initiate the selling process, contacting a trusted realtor to find a buyer without delay. Natalia felt a new sense of strength surge within her. The feeling of being a victim began to recede, replaced by a resolve to fight for her own happiness and freedom. She left the bedroom and descended the stairs. Oleg was engrossed in watching television in the living room, completely oblivious to her distress. Natalia approached him and stated calmly, "Oleg, we need to talk." Oleg turned off the television and regarded her. "I'm listening," he replied. "I agree. Irina and Max can live here," she said, striving to maintain an even, emotionless tone. Oleg looked at her, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "Really? You're not upset?" he inquired. "No, I'm not upset. I understand that you want to help them. I simply wish for you to be happy," Natalia replied, meeting his gaze directly. Oleg smiled. "Thank you, Natalia. You are the most wonderful wife in the world," he exclaimed, embracing her. Inside, however, not a trace of affection remained. She was merely biding her time, waiting for the opportune moment to exact her revenge for the pain and humiliation she had endured, all while concealing her true intentions from Oleg. Natalia contacted the realtor Tatiana Sergeyevna had recommended. She arranged a meeting and provided him with all the necessary documentation for the sale of the house, urging him to proceed swiftly and discreetly to avoid arousing Oleg's suspicion. Natalia resolved to maintain a facade of normalcy. She continued to act as a dutiful wife, preparing meals, doing laundry, and pretending that nothing had transpired. She played the part of a loving and attentive partner, while a meticulously crafted plan for retribution simmered within her soul. She knew Oleg would be overjoyed by Irina and Max's arrival. She envisioned his pride, his self-congratulatory notion of being a hero and savior. Yet she also knew his elation would be exceedingly short-lived. Her intention was to strip away everything he held dear in their home, along with his self-respect. Oleg departed for a few days to assist Irina and Max with their belongings and relocation. During his absence, Natalia and Tatiana Sergeyevna successfully secured buyers for the house, an elderly couple, Pavel and Zenaida, who yearned for a peaceful existence by the lake. Natalia finalized the terms of the sale and the closing date, The transaction was essentially complete, with only the final act remaining. Oleg, brimming with anticipation for the moment he would execute his scheme, drove to the lakeside residence. Irina and her son, Max, were seated beside him in the car. Irina appeared younger, a mere 10 years of age, her eyes gleaming with hope for a fresh start. Max, engrossed in his phone, occasionally cast a glance at the passing trees. The car was laden with their possessions: suitcases, boxes, sports equipment, everything Oleg believed would ensure their comfort in their new abode. Oleg switched off the engine, and the trio alighted from the vehicle. He straightened his shoulders, inhaling the crisp lake air, and surveyed the house. The sunlight danced upon its walls, lending it an even more inviting aspect. "Well, here we are," he declared, turning to Irina and Max. "You're going to love it here." Irina offered a smile, though a subtle shadow of apprehension flickered in her eyes. Max remained detached, his gaze fixed on his phone. "Let's go, I'll show you the house," Oleg suggested, leading the way towards the front entrance. He confidently reached for his keys, only to discover an elderly couple standing on the porch, observing their arrival with evident curiosity. "Hello?" Oleg greeted, a slight frown creasing his brow. "We've arrived at our house." An elderly man with immaculately groomed gray hair and a network of wrinkles around his eyes stepped forward. "Hello?" the man replied. "Who are you?" "This is Irina and Max. We live here," Oleg stated hesitantly, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. "You live here?" the man inquired again, raising his eyebrows in surprise. "How peculiar. We just purchased this house from Tatiana Sergeevna yesterday." Oleg froze, as if struck by lightning. His gaze shifted to the woman standing beside the man, who nodded with a gentle expression and kind eyes, corroborating her husband's statement. "Yes, we are Pavel and Zenaida," she introduced herself. "This is our home now." Oleg's legs felt as though they might give way. He struggled to gather his thoughts, his mind a whirlwind of confusion. "You purchased this house," he stammered, looking at Pavel Petrovich, "but there must be some mistake." "There is no mistake," Pavel replied calmly. "All the paperwork is in order. I can show you if you wish." He entered the house and retrieved a creased document from a shelf, handing it to Oleg. Oleg mechanically accepted the paper but found himself unable to focus. He saw official seals, signatures, and a series of numbers, but their meaning eluded him. Irina, who had been observing from the sidelines, finally spoke. "What's going on?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "Who are these people? They say they bought the house?" Oleg whispered, a wave of panic engulfing him. "They bought it from someone," Irina replied, bewildered. "From Tatiana Sergeevna," Pavel supplied. "From your wife's mother. It appears to be a misunderstanding," Oleg attempted to explain, turning to Pavel and Zenaida. "This house belongs to my wife. We'll sort this out right away." He pulled out his phone and tried to call Natalia. Ring, ring, ring. No answer. Oleg hung up and dialed again. More rings, followed by silence. "She's not picking up," he announced, a sense of despair deepening within him. "Perhaps she's busy," Irina suggested, attempting to maintain a composed demeanor. "Try again later." "I don't understand what is happening," Oleg muttered, gazing at the house. Pavel cleared his throat and addressed Oleg with a sympathetic gaze. "Listen, young man," he said. "I understand this is an awkward situation, but we possess all the documentation confirming our ownership. We paid a substantial sum for this property and intend to reside here." "But where are we supposed to go now?" Irina exclaimed, her voice laced with distress, looking at Oleg. Max, who had been passively observing the unfolding events, finally looked up from his phone. "Dad, what's happening here?" he asked, his expression perplexed. "Why can't we go inside?" Oleg was at a loss for words. He felt utterly foolish, deceived, and humiliated. He had placed his faith in his own cunning, his ability to manipulate others, only to find himself the victim. "I'll find out," he mumbled. He dialed Natalia's number once more, but only silence answered. Natalia did not respond. She seemed to have vanished, leaving him stranded with his ex-wife and her son, surrounded by their belongings and shattered expectations. Pavel and Zenaida, sensing Oleg's distress, decided to leave him to his own devices. They entered the house, their figures receding under the gaze of the cool autumn sun. Oleg stood there, dumbfounded, unsure of his next move. He looked at the house, at the closed door, and the realization dawned that it was all over. His plan had failed spectacularly. He had lost everything, and he alone was to blame. Irina, unable to bear the mounting tension, burst into tears. Max, not fully comprehending the situation, placed an arm around her shoulders. Oleg looked at them, his own distress intensifying. He had betrayed Natalia, deceived Irina, and behaved callously towards Max, and now he had to face the consequences of his actions. He attempted to call Natalia again, but the silence persisted. He understood then that she would not answer. She had exacted her revenge, and she had done so with precision, coldness, and utter ruthlessness. He turned to Irina and Max and said, "Let's go." He still hadn't fully grasped the enormity of what had transpired. Oleg silently followed them. He got behind the wheel, started the engine, and slowly drove away. Glancing in the rearview mirror, he watched the house recede into the distance, a growing emptiness consuming him. Oleg continued to try calling Natalia, but to no avail. Finally, he received a text message. "Let's meet at the office." Natalia did not want to see him in a place that held any significance for them. Yes, and generally, she did not wish to see him, but she needed to bring matters to a close. Looking him directly in the eye, she arrived punctually, took a seat at a table by the window, and ordered a cup of coffee. Oleg arrived 15 minutes late, breathless and visibly agitated. "Natalia, darling, I'm so sorry I'm late," he blurted out, collapsing into the chair opposite her. Desperation and a glimmer of hope were evident in his eyes. Natalia offered no response, merely taking a small sip of her coffee. "What is the meaning of all this?" Oleg finally asked, breaking the silence. "I'm taking this house back from Pavel and Zenaida. Do you even comprehend what you have done?" Natalia placed her cup on the table, her expression calm and impassive. "I understand everything perfectly well, even better than you might imagine. We dreamt of this together. I dreamt of it. That's why I decided to play it safe, to justify Oleg for Max's sake. He's just a child. And who am I? Furniture in the house, an interior item that can be moved at your discretion. You didn't even consult me. You simply presented me with a fait accompli. You will have to accept it. Do you recall those words?" Oleg remained silent, his head bowed, utterly speechless. His arguments, even to his own ears, sounded pathetic and unconvincing. "I understood long ago what kind of person you are, Oleg, that only you and your desires matter, that you are willing to trample over anyone for your own gain. That's why I took precautions in advance," Natalia stated firmly and with unwavering confidence, each word a nail sealing the coffin of their relationship. "But why so cruelly?" Oleg whispered. "Why did you have to make a mockery of me? Why leave me without a roof over my head? And how did you expect me to thank you for your betrayal? To applaud your genius within our home? Your ex-wife. You chose this path yourself, Oleg. You dug your own grave. I thought you would forgive me. You always forgave me. Before, I loved you. I trusted you. I overlooked your flaws. But everything has its limits. My patience snapped the moment you decided you could dictate the terms of my life, my home, my future, as you saw fit." "What will happen now?" Oleg asked, raising his eyes, now filled with despair, to Natalia. "Now you will live with the consequences of your actions," she replied. Standing up from the table, Natalia declared, "And I will begin a new life without you." She turned and walked towards the exit, leaving Oleg alone in the cafe with his shattered dreams and the dawning realization of his profound mistake. He sat motionless, watching her departure as if paralyzed, fragments of memories flashing through his mind. Their first meeting, their wedding, the purchase of the house. Everything seemed so distant and unreal. The house belonging to Tatiana Sergeyevna, Natalia's mother, became a temporary sanctuary for Natalia. Her mother welcomed her with open arms, her eyes reflecting both sympathy and pride for her daughter. "My dear, I knew you were strong," Tatiana Sergeyevna said, embracing her daughter. Natalia responded with a grateful smile, her mother's support being the most crucial element for her at that moment. Thank you, Mom. I don't know what I would have done without you. Everything will be fine, Natalia. You are young, beautiful, successful. You have your entire future ahead of you. Natalia spent several days at her mother's home, attempting to regain her equilibrium. She reflected deeply on the past, analyzed her mistakes, and began charting a course for her future. The most arduous realization was acknowledging that Oleg, the man she had loved and trusted, was fundamentally different from her perception of him. His self-centeredness and avarice had overshadowed any positive aspects that had once existed between them. A few months later, Natalia purchased an apartment in the heart of the city. She furnished it with impeccable taste and evident affection, creating a cozy haven that exuded warmth and comfort. She continued to excel in her career, expanding her business endeavors and indulging in travel. She encountered new individuals and forged fresh friendships. Natalia understood that her life had ultimately unfolded as it was meant to. She had navigated through profound pain and crushing disappointment, but these experiences had forged her into a stronger, wiser woman. She had learned to cherish and appreciate herself, and she stood ready to embrace new challenges and embark on further adventures. The future no longer held any fear for her. She faced it with unwavering optimism and a hopeful spirit. She knew with absolute certainty that everything would ultimately be all right, because she deserved it. She deserved happiness.